Wednesday, October 18th is Inner Circle Live Day. It's noon. It's 12 o'clock right now. We've decided to go with the Zoom call way of doing this because it solves a couple of the problems that we've been having in the past, which is like syncing up our audio and our video. But I want to introduce my beloved to you, the wonderful, the adorable, the gorgeous Ms. Laurie Handlers. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to your party.
We're actually on Zoom now. We're not on Mighty Network.
We're on Zoom right now because of, like I said, the problem that we were having syncing up the vocals with.
So maybe the people
video.
who come on don't know that.
I sent out a notification, and so either way, we're going to go ahead and do the video. We're going to do a video, and then we'll put it up on in our live Inner Circle Live space, and they'll be able to watch it later. It's okay.
Okay.
We got a lot to talk about today, honey. We're really moving closer and closer. The wedding day is approaching. 9.
Oh, 9.
9 days today.
28.
10 days. You're right. It's the 18th. Yeah, today is the 18th.
I can do that kind of math.
It's not ISTA math.
Right.
It's regular math. Yeah. So we're excited and a little we're overwhelmed.
I'm very stressed.
You're overwhelmed, and it's okay. And so we're kind of coming in behind you and helping to solve some of the problems and develop the backyard and do the things. And it's all going to come to pass beautifully. And if you're not able, well, if you weren't invited to the live in-person version of the wedding, we would like to see you on Zoom. So we are going to have a Zoom call, and I'll put that information into the Inner Circle later today to let you know what the Zoom number is, and there's a registration for it. So you're going to have to RSVP if you want to join us live on the day of, and that'll be October 28th, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern.
It's 4:30.
Yeah, I'm starting the Zoom a little early.
Okay.
So that they can see us meandering around and letting in people coming in and all that. It'll last, the Zoom will go on until after we complete our nuptials, our ceremony, and we'll give a nice sign off to you, and we'll thank you for coming, and then we'll shut down the live stream. So it'll only be for the length of time, 30 minutes before and then during our actual ceremony. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Got it all. I thought about all of that stuff, so it's going to be something. So we got a lot to talk about today, and I just want to direct your attention over to our special board.
Okay.
That has all the information that that we are supposed to talk about today. And so today we're talking about speaking your truth and igniting your love. So it has a lot to do with intimacy, you know. So question, how do you, and you wrote about this in your book, Sex and Happiness.
I did.
It's like one of the biggest topics, I think, you know, that the book covers in the way of, you know, being able to have a really difficult conversation with your beloved. And so we talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, it's before that, you have to give yourself permission to speak. So a lot of times people are people pleasers, or people are afraid to speak their truth. They're afraid to get somebody mad. They're afraid to rock the boat. I mean, there's so many things that people could say to themselves to not speak their truth. And the truth is that resentments build up when communication is undelivered. So whatever it is, you got to give yourself permission to speak about it.
Yeah.
And if you don't need permission from the other person, you need permission from you. And lots of times people blame the other person. It's your fault I didn't say anything because you blah, 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 blah. No, it's not your fault.
Right. It's
my own responsibility to take care of myself, to actually let myself say what I have to say to myself, and then say it to you, whoever my partner is.
Yeah.
So speaking your truth is really, really important, because in speaking truth, then you become more intimate.
Yeah.
Even if it means you have to fight it out.
Now, there's a challenge to speaking your truth. The biggest challenge I find is that the longer you're
Can you speak about yourself?
I can.
So
I
what's
can.
the challenge for you?
The challenge that I have, and I've seen in couples in general,
Mm,
but from my experience, and let me know if this resonates or not. That challenge is that as you get to know the person that you're in relationship with, you begin to learn the things that might trigger them or how they may respond to, like if I brought this up before, or I brought it up in a way that didn't work before, and then it turned into a fight, you could be a little bit cautious. And so that's the challenge. The challenge is knowing, like, you give yourself permission to say it, but then the challenge is, all right, I don't want to start a fight, but I got to say something, right?
So then you could say it like that. I want to talk to you about something and I don't want to start a fight. And one time before when I brought it up, it did start a fight, and that's the last thing that I want.
Right. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense to say it that way. But I think a lot of people were untrained. And this is the biggest problem. I was untrained for a lot of years until I actually got some training. Not only your book, but also, nonviolent communication, the Landmark Forum that taught me different ways of communication, communication course, etc. The point is that without any kind of a real plan for bringing up a hard conversation,
Yeah.
most people shy away from it and they just let it go on. And that leads us to the 3 R's, right? And interestingly enough, the first R is resentment. And you mentioned that already.
Right. I'm sorry, my eye is itching.
That's quite all right.
Okay.
So one of the things that I think that has caught a lot of couples off guard, and by the way, I like to look at the 3 R's in the sense of like a bullseye, right? If the center of the bullseye, if that's really where you want to be, because it's where love lives, this is where you're in love. And that term in love I use specifically because that's how you know I'm in love with a person. When you're in love, you don't feel resentment for that person. If they say something to you, you're not resistant. You're like, yeah, you want to engage, you want to be close, you want to kind of get intimate. And when that intimacy starts to pull away, it's usually because you found yourself in one of the outer rings of that bullseye. And
I think you need to put a visual.
I can do that after the fact. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we'll put it right here. But the bullseye is really interesting in the way that it starts out. It starts out with resentment. So if you're in the love, in the middle of the bullseye, everything's great. Things are going well. Communication's happening. There's intimacy, etc. But then when you find yourself in resentment, it's because, as you said, it's because you're not speaking your truth. You're not saying those things that you need to be able to say. And you haven't given you've taken away, and this is the hardest part. Usually it's because you've taken away permission from yourself. It's not something you have an agreement on. You just stopped saying things. And I've done that. I've been there. I know exactly what it feels like. It's like, wow, now I'm resenting that I can't actually say that to you because I know what you're going to say back. Right. And the reality is you might be right about what your beloved might say back to you. And in the worst cases, it's like you might get gaslit. They might challenge you. You might feel like, everything you say is just met with total resistance on their part. And again, the 3 R's leads you somewhere.
If you're met with total resistance, then it's been going on for way too long.
That's right.
I mean, if you're met with anything but I want to hear you, then it's the process has been going on for too long and you need outside help.
Yeah,
it's really difficult to come back from those things.
Yeah. And point in case, this is the reason why we're bringing it up here, because we want to be able to have something that you can look at, that you can go back and watch over and over again to learn this process for communication. It's effective. So the second thing that Laurie just brought up was resistance. How does resistance fall in place? Well, if you're in that rung of resentment long enough, you'll find yourself in the second rung, which is resistance. And you stay there long enough and you'll find yourself in the world of revenge. And that is a horrible world to be in. It's hell. I mean that. It is hell, because now you're considering ways to sabotage and hurt your person. And it's madness. It really does. It leads into a world of madness. So let's help you stay out of resistance by handling things in that first outer circle called resentment. Fair?
Yeah.
Awesome. So what happens when you start to feel resentment is there is a body response. It's a physical, right? It's a response in your body somewhere. So I would ask you, if you, I would assume that you've all experienced resentment in the past, right? In your lifetime. Let me give it to you this way. You're in a room with a group of people that you love and know, and someone walks into the room, and that person is someone that you've held resentment for some time. How does your body react to that? Where do you feel that in your body? And just check in right now for a moment and think about where would that sensation be? Because I want you to be able to identify resentment when it happens, because it truly is a physical, a visceral response to a person. Okay.
So I would feel it in my belly and in my gut, and I would also feel it in my solar plexus. And I would notice that I think I would have a fight or flight response.
Good.
Like I would either want to get in their face and start something,
Right.
or I would want to just leave. Why would I want to be somewhere where that person was?
Yeah.
Actually, I met you on a night like that.
Oh, really?
That's why I brought Bruce Brimacombe with me to that
Oh,
party.
that's right. You told me this. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was going to run into one or two people at that party that I didn't want to be in the same room with.
Mhm.
And so I brought a bodyguard.
Bruce is a good bodyguard.
I know.
He's like 6'8" or something. He's very huge.
No, he's not 6'8",
He's very tall.
but he's a very big person.
Yes. Anyway, so this is perfect. This is a great example of it. Did that person show up?
No,
Good. Okay. So we'll tell the story.
they probably thought that about me.
It's
I don't know,
maybe,
I don't really know.
I don't sense that there's a lot of people out there that have resentment or resistance to you. You're quite lovable.
Yeah,
So
but there are a few.
that's a compliment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But there are a few. I can count them.
I'm sure
I can
there's
count
got,
them on one hand.
I'm sure there's got to be one or two. I probably have 2 or 3 hands.
I just said this too. I was just, there was some thread on Facebook about, what do you do when you have to set a boundary with someone? When someone has violated your boundaries, you have to set a boundary with someone. Monique Darling wrote it. And I said,
Wow.
I would set the boundary and I would say what was up and the consequences. And, if they violated me again, then I would decide whether it's worth having them in my life or not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not necessary to even bother again.
Right.
And then James Stevenson wrote and said, well, what if it's a big company like Apple or something and you're having a problem with them? Then what do you do, Laurie handlers? Because I said, most people wouldn't dare to violate my boundaries repeatedly.
Right.
And then James said, what if it's a big company? And I said, that's interesting. I just got a settlement of $600 from Cox Communications. That's a very big company.
Mhm.
And James said he was going to call me, he had a special name for me,
That's so
he
funny.
was bowing down that I won.
That's amazing.
But anyway, back to this. There are some people who feel like that about me, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. And now we're talking about, okay, well, this is something that you want to deal with, but imagine that this is now your person, your partner, and imagine you're at home, your partner comes home, and you have that feeling. Oh, right.
No, here they come again.
Here they come.
No, they're home.
They're going to say something to you. Oh God, yeah, I got to deal with this person again. It happens. It happens in relationships. It happens all the time. It's so common. It's so ordinary. So if you can notice that happens to you in your body, boom, you get it. Oh, wow. This is going to be your indicator. This is your signal that something's off and you're not in love, right? What I'd like you to do now is to think about, what is it? What is it that's causing that resentment? Is it an ongoing, I can't say this to this person, whatever that is? One of the things that you do really well, Laurie, is you teach people how to move through those emotions, how to move that energy and to get control of it so that it doesn't have control of you. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, anything that's not getting expressed. Primarily, it's the ones we're afraid of, like anger, fear. Resentment is big on this too. Like if we're not expressing them, then those feelings have us, and we're afraid to express them because they could come out wrong. They could come out and scare people. They could scare me. So it's better to do emotional release about them and subtract from the trigger mechanism. Like if I'm angry, I feel like aggressive. If I'm angry, I want to punch.
Right.
If I'm angry, I want to hurt. If I'm angry, I want to do something that would hurt you or hurt a person. And so what I do is emotional release so that I don't feel that I want to push out. I feel neutral, and I can still say to you, Michael, I'm angry, but I'm not angry.
Right.
I'm like, I'm angry. I want to talk to you about what happened yesterday. I was angry, rather than I'm so angry I could wring your neck. Like that's, I take away I teach people to take away the mechanism that wants to hurt.
It's that electrical charge that, you know, if you don't remove that electrical charge, it's then when you say I'm angry, it's going to be delivered with that charge.
Yeah, well, I used to not want to face people when I was angry at them because I know that they could see in my eyes.
Where's the bell? I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is the second time in a row you haven't had the bell here.
Hashtag
I'm
ding.
angry.
Because there's no bell?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can say ding.
Ding,
How about that?
ding.
It doesn't often show up on the microphone when you hit the bell. So,
I know.
but ding.
Ding.
I know exactly what that feels like. Yes. So thank you.
All right. So the idea of doing emotional release is to not wait until you feel that feeling again. You already have a bunch of that feeling already in your body from times before. Fritz Perls, the famous psychologist, used to call it your slush fund. Like you would have this big bag of slush that's unlabeled, but it's stored up anger that wasn't allowed to be expressed. It's stored up fear. In my family, we weren't allowed to express fear. We were allowed to express anger, but no fear. It's stored up anger, fear, could be grief, could be disappointment. I used to have a lot of disappointment. I was like disappointment waiting to happen.
Yeah.
I had so much disappointment that like I would just say, oh, what's the bother? Why bother with this, getting into this situation? I'm only going to get disappointed.
Yeah. Well, then that'll take you out of life. Right. I completely understand what you're saying. Ding.
So do they.
Yeah. So if you're
you
in that,
understand what we're saying, that's why you're listening to us.
yeah,
it's simple stuff.
Well, and then given that you have a mechanism for removing that charge of energy and even the emotion of it, you can move the motion. You can, what is it? Energy and motion. You call it emotion, energy, and motion. You can move that energy out of your life. And then you now take control of it so that you have anger, but anger doesn't have you. And I love that you say that, because as we start to talk about how we can be in relationship, it makes a big difference. Oh, and I also want to say something about this. You don't teach this as a tool. See the difference between ding.
Hello.
That was a ding. The difference between a tool and a practice is that, let's say you have resentment, you experience that resentment, and then you go and you do the emotional release. That's the tool version of it. But if you're someone who's committed to staying in a
In the
current
present.
space, so
Yeah.
current,
In the present.
you don't have a slush fund, this is something that you would do as a practice throughout, like once a week. On a Wednesday, you would go and you would move those emotions. So that's the difference between practice and tool. We talk about that a lot. We really advocate that this become a practice in people's lives. Go and move those emotions. Hand scream, hit the floor, yoga box. These are the things that you teach. And I really highly recommend. And if you've been to an Extraordinary Lovers experience, you know exactly what we're talking about. If you've been to any of Laurie's ISTA programs, you know what Laurie's talking about.
Well, and sometimes people purposely forget.
Yeah, well,
You know what we're talking about, but maybe you forgot because you thought it was a tool and you didn't use it right away, but it's really important that you use this stuff often
yeah. I mean, tools are important, but guess where tools go?
in the tool belt,
The toolbox.
in the box.
They usually go in the toolbox. If they're in the tool belt, they're right there with you. You use them all the time. That's the difference. You got to put on your bat. Remember your bat belt? Put on your Batman belt, right? Utility belt. Oh, never mind. I was a big fan of Batman. I don't know that
put
Laurie
on any
was.
Batman belt.
But get out your Batman belt or your tool belt and have your tools with you at all times. So that anytime anything comes up, you're right there. You can do it. And then the other thing is to, like I said, put it into practice, make it a practice throughout your life. Whether you're in a tough situation where you've got to deal with someone or not. And I'm dealing with something like that right now.
You are?
Oh yeah, you know. So these are the things that now I'm looking at and going, you know what? I talk a good game, but I'm human. So don't always play the game the way it's meant to be played.
Most people need their hand held.
Yeah, that's true.
Michael,
Yes,
I'd like to hold your hand.
yes.
I'd like to recommend that you use your practices.
Thank you, and I will.
Because you're up against some things that don't have really anything to do with your current situation, but they're influencing your current situation.
This is true. This is very true. So again, as I said, and it's great because I'm really getting it again for the 30th time, however many times I need to say it to myself and to others. This needs to be a practice. It really does. So I want to transition from that. Now, we're not going to talk about in depth what emotional release is, and we're not going to give you those tools right now. We have those tools in the rest of the inner circle. In fact,
yeah, I was going to say they're online in the inner
Yeah.
circle already.
go to Sex and Happiness Learning, and you'll find Laurie's bioenergetic emotional release video, and you'll also find Laurie's yoga boxing video, which we created for you. So you can go and watch those and learn how to do emotional release. We don't have to teach it again. And then there's a lot of other information in there. Please do go to, like I said, to the learning space. The next thing I want to talk about is the way to get out of the resentment ring and come back to love is to actually have a conversation. And there are a couple of ways to do it. Now you have one that you call a clearing, and that's a great way to do it. And we follow something that we learned from Allison Armstrong, and she calls it cough it up, blow it up, clean it up. We call it a cough up for short. And so we teach this in our Extraordinary Lovers experience. We're going to give you the details. We're not going to actually do a cough up, which is what we normally do. We actually have that on video as well. That's going to get uploaded this week. Well, we can show you what a cough up looks like, but we can't do it here now. Time. We just don't have the time to do it. There's a lot of information to move through.
Can I just say the reason we use this one is because this is what works for you.
It does.
Clearing conversation works for me. I have that with almost everybody else, but this is the one that works for you. So we use the one that works.
Well, and I think it works for a lot of people to be able to do that. So the first thing that you have to remember is that this is a proactive conversation. So if you feel resentment or you feel like there's something that I need to say, your person hurt your feelings, or said something that was whatever, and you need to say something, this is where you're going to check in with yourself and you're going to take responsibility for how you feel. You take responsibility for your emotions and move those emotions. This is our recommendation. So the first thing is to get a hold of those emotions and then move them and do emotional release. And then the second thing you can do is, after you've moved those emotions, is to say, I have a cough up. To tell your beloved, you have a cough up. And then say, do you have some time now? It'll take about 15 or 20 minutes, or however long you think it'll take, so that it's not an all day thing. And the reason we're doing this is because so often what happens in a relationship is accusations start flying. And they're not really accusations in the mind of the person saying it, but on the person that's receiving it, sure feels like an accusation. Why? What are you talking about? Right? So you may have had this fight that we call the always never fight. Like, you always, you never, will you always, will you never?
Well, that's just like when you.
And you know what? And then we go right back into our past and we start drudging all that stuff up. So let's not do that. That's ordinary. That's what everybody does. We don't want to be that way. We want to be extraordinary. So how do we be extraordinary? Like I said, notice what's happening for yourself. Take responsibility. I have a cough up. It's going to take about this much time. Do you have time now? And usually you'll say, no, I don't, because she's very busy, but I can do something at this time. And so get it on the calendar. Once it's on the calendar, then get together and, remember that the goal is to return to love. Really, that's what this is for. It's not just to call someone out. It's not just to say, here, you were wrong. Hey, you did this, or to highlight a hypocrisy. We all have them. But to say, I want to return to love.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. And so, oh boy.
What's wrong?
And so as you begin to return to love,
Oh, look.
Christine Pearson's on. So we're going to take this and put it back. As you return to love in this process, okay?
Yeah.
There will be a moment at which you'll actually feel that love happen. It'll arise within the space. So I have a cough up. The next thing I'm going to do is say, can we make a bubble? Now, there's a video again in the inner circle, which you can find, that is called Making the Bubble. So we'll teach you that. But then I would make a bubble with you, and then you'll follow some rules. And here are the rules. Rule number one cough up at a time. So if I initiate the cough up, Laurie's not going to cough up back. Laurie's going to hold the position of holding space. And so I'm going to cough up, say what it is, be concise and succinct. And the second rule is that you're going to use I statements to express what it was that you felt, whatever the action or whatever happened. You want to remove story as much as possible. You don't want to use story. You just want to say what happened. You said this, I felt that. Got it? So that's number 2. Number 3 is you don't want to use the past.
That's you always.
That's the always. You can use one, and I recommend just one example of when it happened in the past, but don't drudge up the entire past. So one thing in the past if you need it, but otherwise steer clear of the past. So that's number 3, rule number 3. Rule number 4 is you've got to ask for what you need. Now, asking for what you need is really simple. And this is either an apology, or you might ask for a solution so that it doesn't happen again.
A promise.
A promise. And then you might also ask, and then your partner may ask you what you need. So Laurie might say, okay, I hear you. What is it that you need? Right? And we have a good example of this. When we were in Austin, Texas.
Oh, no, we're not doing this one.
We're not doing it, but I did have an ask.
You did.
And this is a good example because I had a really hard ask. So the cough up was that Laurie and I were doing something in the bedroom, not that. We were doing something in the bedroom, and I had a blindfold, and I took it and I tossed it, and it grazed her eye. Now Laurie's had eye surgery and things, and it like hit her eye, and I didn't mean to. I was tossing it onto the bed, but it grazed her eye. It was a little too close to her head, and she got upset, really upset. And she said, "If you ever touch my eye," say it how you said it,
If you ever touch my eye again, I'll kill you.
and that impacted me. And so
Why did that impact you? How would anyone know?
so
Because some people are from New York
correct.
and they know that you can just say, if you do that, I'll kill
I'll
you.
kill you. Right. So like the mafia don might say, "You do that again, I'll kill you."
That's how I, that's
right. But he would mean it.
right.
Okay. So Laurie may not have meant it. However, it impacted my system. Here's why. Because I've had people threaten my life before. And I felt like, wow, now I've got an enemy, and I won't ever throw anything at your face or at your eye or anything like ever again.
You might toss keys to me, you wouldn't know.
That's my promise.
Don't,
I won't toss anything to you.
don't,
I won't.
unless it's a ball and I'm playing ball.
However, the thought
That I would kill
that
you.
my beloved would kill me was like, fuck, no way. This is not good. So we're dealing with this in a cough up. Just imagine we're in this,
We were demonstrating.
we're demonstrating this in a beautiful like location in Austin, Texas. And and so I asked Laurie, I said, I really need you to promise me that you'll not say that to me again. Now Laurie's in New York. She's like, I can't do that, right? And
I couldn't. It was too hard. How could I ever think that I would never say, I'll kill you again? Like, I can't imagine that I would never say that. It was like, it took me a really long time to agree to that.
and I held my ground, and I said, no, I said, I really need you. And I had to explain all the things that I just explained.
Cut it out or I'll kill you.
Yeah. So I had to sit back and I had to say, listen, I really need you to say that. I need you to promise me. And I said, for the best of your ability, I said, I'm not going to hold you to it, but to the best of your ability, honey. And she thought about it. And I said, really, because I don't know that I could sleep with you again. Like if I accidentally touch you in the middle of the night and I hit your face or something, you're going to just kill me? Like, wow. So I took it like really seriously. And then, and I asked her for this, and she said, stop that. And then she said, okay, all right, I promise. But I think you got it. I think you got where I was
I
at.
got how serious it was to you.
Yeah.
To me, it's just an expression that people use in New York.
Yeah.
Or Boston, where I was, or whatever.
Yeah. I don't.
It's an East Coast thing.
Got it. Yeah. It's not a Michael thing. If I hear the words, I'm going to kill you, I got a couple choices.
You're armed. I know.
Either let you kill me, or I have to respond. So I take it really seriously, and I would never, like, I know that you won't kill me. I hope. So this is what we're talking about. If you have something that you need, you've got to ask for it. And so that was a solution that I asked for. Asked for an apology, and you gave me a beautiful apology. You told me that you were sorry that you had hurt my feelings, that you had.
I told you I was sorry I scared you.
Yeah, and that you scared me. And then you asked me to forgive you. So this is the other side of this. So your partner may say, will you forgive me? And search your heart. Will you forgive your beloved? Will you? This is a matter of the will. Of course you can, but will you? And so that word is important to say, not can you forgive me, will you forgive me? And as an act of my will, I said, yes, I forgive you. And that in that moment, I think we returned to love. And you could see it. It was tangible. Everybody in the room was like, ah. So this is the fifth thing. Forgiveness. So the fourth thing was ask for what you need. The fifth thing is forgiveness. It's important, forgiveness. And so that allows you to then return. Forgive, the word forgive, I forget if it's Hebrew or Latin, it literally means to give as before, so that there's nothing in the way. To give as before. And so forgiveness means to give as before. It's an act of generosity. So think about that when you forgive. And then the last thing I would say is come up with a solution. If there's a thing, like Laurie and I have a thing where I'll say tone if she has a tone, and we work through a, cough up doing that. And then she has a thing for me when I'm driving, which is called cortisol. That's because I tend to talk while I drive to the other drivers who are not driving as well as I am. And I get mad and I start, God damn it, whatever. And I'm talking to these people and I get and Laurie says cortisol and I have to settle down. And so these are solutions. These are ways that you can find keywords, easy things that you could say that's like a trigger in a good way for your partner to realize, oh, I just did that thing that I commonly do. And I didn't even, it's not even, it's kind of an NLP trick, but it's like, oh, I didn't even know I was doing it. And so this gives us the ability to communicate in a way that's really effective and it solves a problem, right? So I'm not always right when you have a tone. Sometimes I go tone and you're like, did I have a tone? But you check in. And if you did have a tone, then I love it. You're immediately like, yeah, you're right. I had a tone. And if you didn't have a tone, you'd be like, wait a minute, did I really have a tone? And I'll say it back to you the way you said it. And then we have a conversation. So it makes it much easier to get through that little hiccup or speed topaz, the speed bump.
Topaz.
The speed bump that happens sometimes when you're just going through life. And so these little keywords are really helpful to create a solution. And then, you express your love for one another. Maybe you hug, maybe you kiss, maybe you can get complete. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? And if there's nothing else, in that point, you feel that love. You can feel it resonating inside of your bubble. You can say, I love you. And then you can pop your bubble and you're complete. You've dealt with something in such a powerful way that you can now move into your life with the love that you just really created. That's extraordinary. That's beyond anything. And you can do this over and over and over again in your life. Now, I may have said something to Laurie where she realizes she has a cough up. And then she may say, I love this. Thank you. I have a cough up. Now, one cough at a time. And then we do it in reverse. Make another bubble and do the thing. By the way, you could sit down for an hour and you could tell your partner, I have a number of things that I want to go over with you. And each one of them is a cough up. And you have a list. You could do that. Or you could take it as it comes. Because there may be things in your past that you've got to deal with in your relationship that have been in the past. And up until now, you didn't have a way to deal with this. But now you do. And so you can use this as a way to get things moved out of the way in your relationship and then begin to work together as a partnership in love. It's really beautiful. It's really
I'm getting hypnotized.
Are you?
Yeah.
Have I hypnotized you, baby?
You're not trying, but I'm going into trance.
Okay, come on out. Is there
Let
anything?
me do a hands.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, you did amazing.
Thank you.
That's what I was first feeling. Don't look at Michael. He's just doing so great and everything. And then I just started getting into it.
I love it. That's great. That's great. Thank you. So I've been looking over here at this camera. This camera.
Count down 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. Come out.
Okay.
Thank you. So this has been a way for us to be able to deal with the difficult conversations that we have. It allows us to move through a difficult conversation, and it allows us to actually ritualize. So ritual is really big. And last month we did ritual. We talked about rituals.
Last month, yeah. Rituals were, that was our subject for the month.
We taught how to do a circle, or I'm sorry, how to do a bubble. We talked about the rituals that we do, like sex magic and things like that. But this is one of those rituals. And again, it's useful whether you're doing it as a, not just as a ritual to solve problems, but you can use the bubble and a cough up to do more than that. Like there have been times where I've just said, I've got a cough up, and I'll say to Laurie, I really feel like I've not appreciated you. and I love you, and I want you to know that you're super important in my life, and I admire you. And I'm like, using a cough up like that, you could do that. It's not going to have a blow up. It'll have a different effect, but it's also another way to bring this conversation forward.
Most of us don't have blow-ups.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of blowing up.
No. And the reason for it being a cough up, blow up, cleanup is so that you have, a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think that's really important. The blow up needs to be there, especially if she has questions and she's questioning my reality of what happened, right? I might say this happened and she saw it differently.
I'm not questioning your reality. I'm questioning your perception and your interpretation.
Exactly.
Lately, I've been questioning your interpretations of some things
Mhm.
because I don't see them the same way. I don't interpret them that way.
Right. So, and that's where I guess the content, or that's the structure that we have built so that we can do that. Because without it, imagine just challenging each other's, interpretations or their point of view or how they're seeing things in the moment. Just imagine just being challenged all the time. There's no structure for that.
There are people like that.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
There are people who do that. They don't have any idea, and they don't have an idea that the person that they're interacting with may be building resentment, that they never get a sentence out because the person keeps challenging them.
Right.
Or what have you. If you don't have a structure for it, it's annoying.
Mhm. It is. It's frustrating. It makes it worse because then it becomes a resistance thing,
Yeah.
So this is why we put this in place. And finally, there's this idea of being able to return to love. And like I said, once you get through all of this, the goal is to return to love. Now, what happened? What would like if I had a Q&A, let's imagine we had 5 or 6 people on who were going to ask a bunch of questions about this. And let me see if we have any questions. Not so far. But imagine that we had a bunch of questions. Well, what happens if you don't return to love? What happens if you just remain in blow up?
It's not very good. I mean, it can't be good if you don't return to love. That means that you've waited too long. It's insurmountable. You need outside help. You may not ever return to love. I don't know.
Yeah. I think if I could just, I can hallucinate like what it would be for that to happen. And it would seem to me that in some way, one of us is just being right.
Yeah, it doesn't want to let go of righteousness.
Yeah.
But if that happens, that you're already in resistance, just being right and not wanting to come back into the circle of love means that you're in resistance. You're not going to.
Yeah.
You've been in there. I've been there.
Yeah, we both have.
Everyone we know has been there in some relationship.
So it's really it's a difficult one, but I think what I'd like to offer and to invite you to do is to check it out, to say, am I just being right here? If let's just assume you are right. Let's assume you're right. I'll assume I'm right. I'm right by my interpretation of my reality. You're right in your version of that. And then I could say, well, I don't see it your way. And you could say, I don't see it your way. And I could say, well, I still want to be in love with you. And I don't have to be right. And I can surrender. That's one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't have to be right here. I really don't. I'd rather be in love. Now, again, this is a matter of the will. This is about choice, right? And so instead of fighting for, I saw it this way, this is the way it happened.
You're wrong.
You're gaslighting me. We start using all the keywords of those special words that we get.
I'm coming from my trauma response.
My mother did that to me, and you're being just, we start projecting and all the other things. Take a step back and just go, my reality is my reality. It's not it's not that you're wrong, it's that there's a cost to being right. And is your love worth the cost?
A lot of people would say yes. They're like, they're being right is so huge to the ego.
Yeah.
It's huge for people.
Who?
And when I'm, you know, upset about something or I'm on it, so to speak, I like being right about it.
Sure, so do I. And who would you be if you were right, but you lost the love and respect of your partner?
Who would I be would be sad. Who would I be would be a sad, right person.
Maybe alone.
Alone, right person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not worth it. And it's not saying that you're surrendering a piece of yourself. That's not what we're asking. And that's not what we're saying. We're saying, you know something, I don't have to be right here. Now, I want you to remember that you're a sovereign being. You don't have to take our advice. You don't have to take this as this is the way it has to be done or it should be done.
oh, why not? We're right.
Well, maybe.
I'm only kidding.
What I do want to say is you got options. You could be at war with your beloved. You could be on a battlefield fighting with your beloved, or you could be on a battlefield fighting for your love with your beloved. So it's a different context. And being right oftentimes gets us nothing more than sad and alone. And I just don't think it's worth it. I really don't. At some point, the conversation will come back to, hey, you know, that time we had that fight, yeah, I'd like to make a bubble. And I'd like to maybe redress it and see where we're at now. And you can do that. You can always come back to the bubble and you can always redress it. And you can always say, you know, I do have a cough up. I want to go a little bit more deeper into this because I've learned some things about myself and I've learned some things about you. And I just want to see if there's some way that we can actually come to a much more loving completion to this. So these are all the things that are possible. These are the tools and the practices that you can use to have an extraordinary love. Now, here's what I love about coming out of a bubble with Laurie after we've done a cough up or we've done clearing. And that is how much more love we have for one another and intimacy, and our love making changes. It becomes better. We get what we're looking for, right? And so I think that it's better to come out and make love after having had a bubble, like create a new bubble and make love, than it is to fight and then have makeup sex. That's ordinary. It's kind of hot sometimes, but it's just so ordinary.
I don't think we don't have that.
No.
We should fight.
You want to?
No, I'm only kidding.
No, I don't want to fight. And you say, yes, I want to.
We don't have that.
I want to fight and have makeup sex.
We don't have that.
Yeah, it's just not as good. I don't think it's as good. Well, what are some other questions that we might get around this? Well, let's finish up with this one. I mean, the only other one that I could think of is, do we do this every time? Is this something that we are super committed to when we get into it?
Yes,
We
we
just have-
do this all the time since we know it.
Yeah,
I might say I have something to clear with you. I might not say I have a cough up.
same,
That's it.
same thing.
But
We follow the same rules.
yeah, we do it. We did it before we knew each other, and we do it now.
Yeah, and it works. So, I think that it's a superior way of dealing with problems, and dealing with upsets. I think problems is one thing, upsets is another.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we did it yesterday. We did. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think we did it yesterday, day before. I forget. Boy, these days run together. So, but we did. We had one the other day, and so yeah, I would say that if you were to ask that of us, absolutely, we stick to this because it's important. It's extraordinary. I think we need to wrap up. I want to say that if you find yourself in this situation and and you tried this and it's kind of not working for you, or maybe you're finding that you're struggling through it, it's much more of a kind of like moving through peanut butter than it is like making ease and grace and lightness. Then we do have coaching, so we can offer you coaching, and just reach out to us. You can reach out to us in the inner circle through the chat. Just find us, either one of us, and hit us on chat, and we would be happy to talk to you about possibility, a package or something like that for coaching, and we can help you with that. By the way, we're here every Wednesday live 3 p.m. Eastern, and so this week we are trying the Zoom call because in the live we had this problem of the video and the audio not syncing correctly, and so Zoom actually does a much better job of syncing both of those things, and so we're on Zoom today. That's the reason for that. And then also, we're getting married next week.
We are.
And so
In
that's
10 days.
that's on Saturday, but Wednesday we still have another call to do here. So we'll be live next Wednesday, and we're looking for someone, a couple, who is struggling. And so we do something once a month called Relationship Rescue, and next week is that week.
Oh,
And so if you're interested, reach out to us either through email, and you can get to us at info@lauriehandlers.com. If you'd like to be someone who's online, will be on live doing a relationship rescue with you, or you can reach out to us in chat. And so either Laurie or myself, and just say, yes, I would love to be on Relationship Rescue next week, and we'll get in touch with you and we'll figure it out. So that's next week again, 3 p.m. and we'll be on for an hour, and let's see who's interested in having a relationship rescue. If we don't have one, we'll have our final call for the month, and that will be a wrap up of everything that we talked about this month, and that final video call or live for the month. And then next month we're going into gratitude, and so watch for the newsletter, because that will give you an indication of what we're doing throughout the month. It's sort of our theme. It builds the theme for every month, is our newsletter. That'll come out on the first Tuesday of the month. So we love you. I love you.
I love you too.
Is there anything else you want to say before we go, my love?
No, I just feel like I'm very low energy today, so I just want to say to people,
Okay.
please permit that I really have a lot of plates spinning in the air. I'm on the Ed Sullivan show. And I have all these plates spinning.
Yeah. Oh, you're incredibly busy. I mean,
I am, and I'm just, yeah. So I'm glad that you came across today.
Thank you.
You were awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I love you, and I'm gonna let you go back to work, because I
Thank
know that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna run into the other room and get on a call.
No, I have no more calls. I'm doing other stuff.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
afternoon delight?
No.
No. Okay, well, there you have it. Thank you, everybody. We love
Thank
you.
you. We love you.
We'll see you next week.
Okay.
All right.
York City.